For 9 years, I was broadcasting conversations, and it wasn't until April 6th of this year where we did the second largest YouTube live stream in the world that was subsequently deleted and banned 30 minutes later. And I've been on a razor edge with YouTube, and this is 8,000 videos, 250 million views, and I've been told by my rep that I'm one upload away from being completely deplatformed. And it feels like when we say something that's against their quote unquote community standards, which are super subjective and seem to change at a moment's notice, then we're censored. And it just feels like there's literally a handful of people in Silicon Valley that are controlling so much of our free speech. Curious what you think about free speech and then this concept of digital freedom of speech.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a really hot topic right now, Brian. And I mean, you've tapped into that theme very well. And I mean, I think the concept of freedom of speech is so precious to the Western values. I mean, it's literally the bedrock upon which our entire society has been built. And we are so close to slipping over that edge right now. We're so close to slipping into this censorship world. I mean, we already are. We're straying into this gray area where the tech companies really become the arbiters of what is and isn't moral truth. And that's a very dangerous place to be. I mean, if you look at previous totalitarian regimes of the past, you look at the Soviet Union, or you look at East Germany, or even you look at Yugoslavia, it was, and you look at China to this day, you have regimes which are basically saying what you can and can't say. And the way they enforced that was through the platforms of the media. And of course, George Orwell wrote, Newspeak became the medium in 1984, which he talks about, where, of course, you have to rewrite language. And what's happening now with the modern censorship movement, you're rewriting language. You're saying that certain words become, anathema to popular usage. Certain terms become all-encompassing. So the term racism or, whatever it is that we're talking about this day has become so broad brush now that anybody saying anything can be tarred with this brush and then become censored. So that has become the new norm. And I mean, you've even seen it happening, of course, to the president, which is incredible, because the tech companies are literally deciding what the president of the United States can and can't say on their platforms. Now, of course, the way they've evaded that has been through the status of saying, well, Section 230 under the Supreme Court, New York Times versus Sullivan, we can say, well, we aren't a publisher. We are, we're just a platform. Now, that is an absurdity. And you've seen the Supreme Court justices, some of them have come out and said, oral arguments have been presented saying that they'd like to retest the case of New York Times versus Sullivan. Now that, if that happens, is a very, very important case, because that would actually then push the tech platforms into the region of publisher rather than just platform. And that is really what they are these days. They are a publisher. They're not just a platform. So we as conservatives have had to, play a very, very tight game on what we can say on platforms, because as you have just made yourself clear, you're one upload away. And that's very dangerous, because then now you're also seeing this push, which is obviously why you were advertising this at the beginning of the conversation, but you've seen this push towards trying to go direct. And actually that, of course, is really the ultimate way that we can share our content, is just by going direct. And you've seen other people do that in the past. You've seen, obviously, Alex Jones, for example, has long been a direct person, because he's been taken off everywhere. Laura Loomer, who's running for, Congress in Palm Beach, she was deplatformed from pretty much everything. And now she's had to go direct, and Facebook are still trying to push her out. And they actually have clauses in their contracts which have literally carved her out of being able to come back onto the platform, even if she's an elected representative. So the ultimate way that we have to deal with this is by going direct. And so we're also looking at that model over here more and more conservatives over here are trying to establish themselves with their own media presence, independent of the tech platforms. And then, of course, you've also got the rise of the free speech advocate platforms. So I mean, for example, Minds, which is run by Bill Ottman, and Parler, which is, which has become well known, that's obviously started rising as well. And those platforms will get more and more traction as the free speech argument on things like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram become more and more scrutinized and become more and more censored.